Look at that. Spyros,
Hi, son.
it's good to see you.
Good to see you
Here
too.
we are. We're in Barcelona.
We are. What a
Yeah.
great city.
It is a great city, right?
Yeah.
And with a great event.
What a
A great-
fantastic
and a
event.
great community.
OWASP community is the best.
It is the best. We're not partial. Right? We're not biased.
We are 100% objective here.
Exactly. Well, it's good to see you. I know you have a busy week. You have a talk as well,
I do.
Yes.
Friday, early morning.
right? So give us the title of that and what it's about. Just quick, and then we're going to dig into some of the elements there.
So the talk is about unifying OWASP execution. And thus creating a DevSecOps program from scratch with community resources. It is 50% community celebration of all the awesome stuff we have.
Come closer.
Sorry. It is 50% presentation, celebration of all the awesome stuff we
Right.
have, and 50% how-to, very technical guide on how to automate testing, verification, and orchestration of pretty much anything in OWASP and beyond.
Right. This is really cool, and I think one of the parts that stuck out to me was this idea of not just bringing tools, but also the teams together, right? Because there's multiple stakeholders, and you have to have a common goal
Exactly.
and an objective view of how to achieve that, and then obviously a program to bring it all together too. So.
Exactly. I mean, security is all about the humans, right? So if the humans cannot reach a consensus because their information is fragmented or their information is presented in a way that leads them down the wrong paths, then there's no point. You end up burning cycles, very limited cycles that you have, chasing rabbits down the wrong rabbit hole.
So before we get into this, I want maybe a quick word from you just on who you are, your role within OWASP, what you do on a daily basis as well, just so people know who Spyros is and what you're up to.
So I'm Spyros Gasteratos. I hail from Greece. I live in London. I've been doing computer security for the past 18, 19 years. I was a student in university when I started. I've done many hats over the years. Most of them open source, and I've been with OWASP since the very beginning. I've maintained 3 projects now and contributed to a ton of others. OpenCRE being the largest so far, the world's largest security knowledge graph, and now it has gotten a bit out of hand, and it's national regulation. We celebrate that.
I think I'm going to, just a quick side note, I'm going to be pulling, probably sounds like you and Ollie and a few others on this whole point of CRE and CVE and VD, and NVV, and National Database, anyway.
The new vulnerability stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds
So-
great. Let's do it.
Yeah, so after the event, we'll have a nice deep conversation there. But anyway,
Absolutely. And
what else are you up to?
lately, professionally, I co-founded a company to hold a bunch of open core or open source security projects that help our users automate their life in AppSec or automate collection and explanation of information. We call the company Smithy. We've open sourced a very large part of it, and we open source more as we go to make. And the goal of Smithy is to be a flexible Zapier for security tools, a flexible workflow engine that allows you to automate anything.
Very cool. I'm a huge fan of Zapier.
Me too. That's why we made it for security.
I use the heck out of it. All right, so let's talk about the stakeholders and what that landscape looks like. And have we seen a good progression in organizations really rallying around AppSec, not just security and engineering? What do you see?
Based on a lot of interviews and a lot of constant feedback from the community and the industry, we see that organizations don't really, AppSec becomes kind of the nagging if not implemented correctly. And as a result, organizations do not really focus on it. There is very few places where application security people end up being the team's doctor instead of the police. So instead of nagging you, they help you create software like the proper way, with quality and security baked in. But most of the cases, this doesn't work. And this is not for the lack of tooling or trying or resources, it's mostly because there is no unified way to disseminate only the right information to all the right people, and you end up either overloading developers with low priority things or lower priority than the feature of the day, or overloading your boss with dashboards that just show red constantly, so they end up with this noise fatigue and do nothing.
Yeah. As you're describing that, so a lot of my history is back in security management, the SIM space, and trying to orchestrate all that and craziness. And what I'm hearing and seeing is a shift to automation, certainly a shift with AI in the SOC to kind of take away a lot of the noise, take away a lot of the mundane, burdensome stuff, and empowering the analysts, SOC analysts in this case, to actually use their brain and be creative in how they investigate and respond to incidents. So I'm wondering, and I was talking to Taka yesterday from Japan, and he was kind of saying in Japan the engineers are less interested in all the AppSec bugs that come their way. They're actually shifting to a place where they want to use their mind to design better software and create better tooling for the software and leverage automation and other things to be creative in their engineering mindset to create something better rather than just plug in bugs every day. Are you seeing something similar?
There is definitely, with the rise of, they call it vibe coding, AI-assisted coding, there is certainly a slowly shifting focus to better design and better architecture because the code can be generated or written faster. So this definitely exists. At the same time, due to us being on the early stages of that trend, we are not quite there yet where we can only focus on design. We really need to keep doing bug fixing. At the same time, we need to focus on design because that's the future. So, because the times they are changing.
There's always legacy, right?
Yeah, not only legacy, but this is a brand new technology. And because it is a brand new technology, it's not well polished, well baked yet, it's not quite there yet. When it's there, give it like 5 years or 10, yes, we can focus all on design and be happy. For now, we need to chase bugs.
Right. And so, with rooted in your talk and other things you're seeing, and kind of sticking with the multi-stakeholders coming together, how does the bug landscape change? Because obviously the top 10, OWASP is famous for that. It can be used properly. There are misuses of it, but it's a guide for some organizations. I guess what I'm wondering is, do organizations looking at severities and impact and risk differently as they start to come together versus just engineering and AppSec kind of tossing stuff back and forth?
So,
does that view change?
Risk is business risk is security risk is business risk, and business risk is custom to every organization. So custom to the business, how they operate and what is that specific quarter or period of time their appetite for it. We have an abundance of dashboards that show you your risk or try to calculate your risk now, which is fantastic. But how do you calculate risk when the qualifications for what is risky keep changing?
Right.
So if right now I have a team that just needs to ship something to production to make a customer happy, otherwise we lose our biggest account, security risk doesn't matter.
Right.
just push it, let's get the money, and then we fix it,
Right.
which is very common. But then you end up having to ignore, I don't know, thousands of alerts from your ASPM that then suddenly become legacy. If you have the ability to just tag that team as, or that specific piece of infrastructure as, I don't care about it, and then show it to me in like 3 months, then you can encode your business risk and your business practices into code much better.
Right. So the role of automation. You can look at automation and one can say it's good as long as you know what you want to, what the outcome should look like, and you have all the stuff ready to achieve that outcome. Automation can help you do that faster with fewer human resources, right? But if there's a lot of messiness in this, and of course we're talking about a lot of OWASP tools and OWASP data sets and things like that, how is what you're working on helping to bring consistency and clarity and transparency so that automation can exist? Because I think probably a lot of teams struggle with that, right?
A ton of teams struggle with that. However, the struggle is two-tiered. You start from, oh, this sounds easy, let me just write one library for it, or one client for, say, Defect Dojo, or just use Defect Dojo's very well supported Python client. But then you need to enrich that with ASVS, or you need to enrich that with SAM, and then you write another client or another, and slowly you end up in this, as you said, pile of zigzag written code that makes no sense. Meanwhile, if you have a community-based library or framework of resources, that is, you already have all those clients, you just need to put them together in a way that makes sense for you, and they're all well thought of and generic enough and deeply integrated enough to every project, suddenly you end up in this scenario where you can customize the things that are custom to you. Meanwhile, all the generic things are well enough made to be to not need to be rewritten and to not fail like 3 weeks down the line.
So the core of it's there, and you can kind of thread unique elements through it or wrap your own stuff around it as well.
Not unlike you would do with a SIEM or a SOAR.
Yeah, makes sense. One thing I want to ask folks this week, and it's been on my mind, it's something I've been thinking about for years, but especially now with a lot of the AI stuff coming to life, I have this view that, especially with Gen AI, where the models are trained on data that exists already and the output is based on that. And I don't know how much creativity is there to extend what exists to create something new rather than just repurpose what's already been done. So that my view is that we're approaching a point where we make it easy for teams and individual developers to create things for their own purposes using existing stuff, but they're not going to be as creative because they're not coding anymore. They're using AI to code, and they're not going to know how to be extra creative to create new things. I don't know if I'm making sense here. I call it the common denominator.
I understand.
Of coding.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I think I disagree with you on this.
Okay, I'm glad.
We didn't stop having creative uses of fire when we invented lighters or matches.
Okay.
Instead, we had even more creative uses of any technology once we created the shortcut to get into where we want to be. AI is nothing more than yet another tool. It's a shortcut which we use to translate the abstract thought we have in our mind and we express in physical language into specific instructions for a machine. Even if AI could produce perfect code, we'd still need to somehow tell it what to do. This is the real creativity. So we could say, give me 5 different clients from 20 different tools, and then correlate that with different resources. But our value as AppSec people is not into coding or being able to create yet like the millionth Jira client.
Right.
Our value as application security people is being able to say, in this specific organization at this specific time, this is what my AppSec program, this is what I want, and this is how we're going to get to safer and more secure code faster with less risk for the company and less cost.
Okay. So the future is bright in your mind.
So far it has been. Why not?
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with that, and we'll kind of leave this conversation with that bright moment. And I want to say thank you, Spyros, for joining me. And I'm gonna ask the final question, and I'm gonna have you address the camera.
Okay, sounds good.
So maybe face the camera and talk to the audience here. I want to know, you've been in this space for a while now. What does OWASP mean to you? Tell the folks listening.
To me, OWASP is the largest and most open security of application security, community of application security experts in the world. There are people who professionally give their time to some ridiculously high security organizations who, as a result, have amassed a ton of expertise, who provide that very precious time, very expensive time to the community for free to maintain some of the world's best projects, like ASVS that's used by several governments to secure their own infrastructure, or some AI Exchange and OpenCRE, we talked about that.
Right.
So that's it. OWASP is the best community in the world for cybersecurity expertise and cybersecurity programs.
Well said.
Thank you.
Good stuff. I agree.
Glad you do.
I agree. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this conversation. Do connect with Spyros and become part of the OWASP community and help us build safer apps so we can all live a safer life and conduct business more safely.
Exactly.
Safe.
Well said.
All right. Thanks, everybody.